Jinbe debuted on the 28th of March 2019. Following the major celebration of the 4th anniversary, the team opted to have the second iteration of Jinbe make his appearance with some of the Fishmen in an interesting batch. This Sugo-Fest batch featured characters such as Straw Hat Pirate Sympathizer Kami, Opening of the Feast Hachan, Waratsume the Giant Monk Sea Spirit, the 21st daughter of the Charlotte family, Charlotte Praline, as well as the Sun Pirate's first mate, Aladdin. And the Sugo-Fest exclusive character of the batch was another type-focused character that aimed to bolster 3 of the 5 types, similarly to Legend Lucy, with an absurd special that required specific slot control in order to gain the maximum benefits. This character was an odd one for sure. Introducing the Sun Pirate's captain, Knight of the Sea, Jinbe. In this series, we'll be traveling back in time to experience some of the older Sugo-Fest exclusive characters in their prime, aiming to show just what it was like to use these characters on their debut. I hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's enter the Legends of OPTC. Thank you so much for checking out yet another episode of The Legends of OPTC, and today we are now going away from the 4th anniversary of One Piece Treasure Cruise, and the next Sugo-Fest exclusive to debut for One Piece Treasure Cruise Global was none other than V2 Jinbe. Now this character wasn't super hype on release just due to the fact that his mechanics were a bit strange, and he was very similar to like Legend Lucy, for example, but it just almost felt like Legend Lucy was basically a better version of this character. We'll get to his details in just a moment, but the rare recruits in this batch are pretty interesting. And around this time we had the introduction of the Sengoku ambush, which is of course what Jinbe was basically built for. We have the Hody Jones limited rare recruit, which we probably will showcase in this video today. Actually, he's actually really nice for the batch. And then we've also got Clash Judge, which this Jinbe was also very good for. So a lot of content released actually for this Jinbe right after the anniversary. But in terms of the rare recruits, the first one that we have here is Kami, who is a Psy Free Spirit Fighter. Captain ability doesn't matter. Reducing paralysis by 2 turns for herself and special bind for herself, which is pretty cool. And then reducing paralysis, special bind, increased damage taken, burn, all by 2 turns. And if you have a delayed enemy, boost attack against delayed enemies by 1.75, otherwise you delay them for 1 turn. And it made a lot of sense with the fact that this character had double special activation on release. So that obviously makes her much more powerful, being able to remove 4 turns of all of these debuffs, even though she only resists 2 turns of special bind. That really hurts the character. Probably should have made that 4 turns, would have made a lot more sense. But also the fact that you can get basically a self-proc conditional from this character is just pretty strong. So on release, a lot of people wanted this character just because of how usable she was. But of course, as time progressed, the utility component of her special was definitely a lot weaker. The next rare recruit is Hachan, and I think that even to this day, like, this character will still see a little bit of play, but ultimately this was the most desirable character of the batch aside from the legend himself. So Hachan, being a Psy / a powerhouse, his special was very, very, very powerful. 6 hits of damage to random enemies, would reduce all enemies' defense by 100%, changes block, tandem, G, and bomb slots into recovery, and if you have a powerhouse captain, then he boosts the attack against reduced defense enemies by 1.75. So the fact that you could get a damage dealing special, a self-proccing defense down conditional, and slot change in one character is very, very strong. And one component of this character that is actually pretty interesting is the fact that when you have his pre-evolution, this guy was actually a fighter character, whereas the evolved version is a slasher. So there was actually a point in time where you actually wanted to have 2 copies of the unit, one as 4-star, one as 5-star. So you could run, one on a fighter powerhouse focused team, and then another for just generic use. So kind of interesting that they, used to do that, but of course nowadays characters only release in 5-star form for the rare recruits, so you don't have to worry about this kind of thing anymore. Next rare recruit is Waratsume, being a strength powerhouse fighter. Once again, the captain ability doesn't matter, but cannot be blown away, which sometimes is useful, and also makes int slots beneficial to powerhouse. So crewmate abilities are pretty strong on this guy, but the effect changes all slots, including block, of the left column characters into matching, and adds 0.7 to the chain for 2 turns. Yeah, pretty useless special ability, only changing half of your crew slots into matching. I mean, this honestly should have just been a full board of slots, honestly. Even just, if it was just for powerhouse characters, it'd be better. And then a 0.7 chain boost, but yeah. Unfortunately, this character is just terrible. And then the last two rare recruits, we have Charlotte Praline, and we've also got Aladdin, which we'll talk about soon. But Praline, that artwork goes crazy still. Dex, Cerebral Powerhouse, so great classes. And her special ability reduces increased defense, percent damage reduction, and damage threshold all by 5 turns. This component of the special wasn't super useful on release. Of course, like, it's always nice to have effects like this, of course. But as time has gone on, we've seen how powerful this special is. This component of the special is the most useful part. However, the other part of her special just isn't very useful, like, at all. But in terms of the context of V2 Jinbe, this does make sense. Changes orbs in the left column to Dex, Strength, and then Psi from the top to bottom. And then if you have a recovery slot on your captain, then heals 13 times her recovery at the end of the turn for 3 turns. So this part of the special really doesn't matter for a lot of teams, but the first component of increased defense, Rainbow Shield, and threshold reduction by 5, incredibly powerful. And obviously, as time has gone on, this is probably the best rare recruit of the batch. I mean, quite comfortably, you could say that. But on release, a lot of people really wanted the Hachan just due to the offensive capabilities he would provide. But obviously, as time has gone on, you know, characters get power crept, but utility effects like that are really, really rare to come across. So this is a very, very valuable rare recruit. And then the final rare recruit is Aladdin, being a strength powerhouse fighter, and his special would reduce 3 turns of Bind and Despair, locks your slots for 1 turn, changes orbs of the right column from top to bottom into recovery, int, and then quick slots. And then if you have a dex slot on the friend captain, he boosts the orbs of your characters by 1.75 for 3 turns. A really, really weird special ability. Of course, you can have your Praline and your Aladdin and activate one special first to get healing, or one special first to get the orb boost instead. Very weird type of components going on here. I'm not really a big fan of the Aladdin special that much, especially because the utility is only 3 turns. That really hurts. The orb block is obviously pretty valuable, but Aladdin just really wasn't the best choice in a lot of circumstances, because the orb change of both Praline and Aladdin is just so bizarre, unless if you're using V2 Jinbe and that optimal team scenario, but not really the best. And then we get to the Sugo-Fest Exclusive, which is V2 Jinbe, Knight of the Sea Jinbe, the Sun Pirates Captain, being a Dex powerhouse fighter character. His captain ability is interesting, where you need to have a Strength, Dex, and a Psi character on the crew in order to activate all of the buffs. He will then boost the attack of those 3 colors by 3 times, or by 4 times instead if you got a matching slot, and then also give them a 1.35 health boost, as well as making Dex, Recovery, and Tandem slots beneficial to all characters. So this is why we mentioned a little bit earlier why a lot of people kind of compared him to Lucy, in the fact you needed to have the 3 certain colors, he'd boost those characters, give you a health boost, and also make a lot of slots beneficial. He was essentially like a new version of Lucy, at least as a captain. When you move on to his special ability, it's really bizarre. So it is a 20% health cut, and it goes to all enemies, of course. And if your crew has characters with at least 1 of each, Strength, Dex, Quick, Psi, Int, and a recovery slot, he would boost the attack of the 3 colors that he boosts by 2.25 for 1 turn, and also make all type slots beneficial to the crew for 1 turn. However, if you don't have 1 of each of these slots, you get a 1.75 times attack boost instead. So yeah, this part of the special is kind of weird, right? Like this is so bizarre. We haven't seen this used that often because of just how crazy of an ability this is. Essentially, you need 1 of every type of slot naturally on the crew when you launch his special in order to get all of the buffs activated. So yeah, Strength, Dex, Quick, Psi, and Int, that's your 5 type slots, and then a recovery slot as well. So it's actually pretty difficult to apply that in a lot of circumstances. We're hopefully going to be showing that off today so you guys can see how it actually works. Very, very weird. But even if you don't fulfill this condition, you still get a 1.75 times attack boost, which was the same level as Lucy. Lucy would give you 1.75 on activation, and then after the certain amount of perfects, you would get the 2 times boost in the following turn. So this guy, again, is very similar to Lucy in a lot of ways, but Lucy was still way easier to use. But the fact that this character got access to Psi characters is pretty good, because you could use it against Int enemies, which is obviously really good, because Lucy wouldn't get type advantage against Int or Psi characters. So Jinbe is a very interesting character. Weirdly enough, I think a lot of people did enjoy this batch, at least on release. but in hindsight, looking back at it, we can see how terrible this guy was designed. Another character that's kind of interesting that a lot of people were opting to use was Clash Heracles, a character that really hadn't seen much play unless if you were using Strong-Willed Ace teams back in the day, because he was a Psi unit, and on activation, he'd give you one of all of those slots. He would legitimately give you a Strength Dex Quick, Psi Int, and a Recovery slot. So after using the special of Heracles, you could use the special of Jinbe to get the full benefit of his special. So that was one way people were trying to abuse this character in different team compositions. But yeah, this is a really, really weird character, and I'm really hoping that we can show off today just how strange he is, but also how powerful he was on release. And here we are in game now with Jinbe, captain of the Sun Pirates and the former Warlord of the Sea. He made the decision to leave the Big Mom Pirates in order to help Luffy. When he learned that Luffy had been trapped by Big Mom, he rescued him from the prison library, along with Nami, by the way, where he absolutely KO'd Opera, which was just hilarious. But this is Jinbe right here. He is good to go. I actually was lucky enough to have a dupe ready to go, which is good. Always nice for this series to actually keep a duplicate copy, just in case if you need it. But Jinbe here is a very interesting character, of course, with that really strange special where you want to have one of every type of slot on the crew to really abuse the mechanic where you can get the full board of matching slots, making those slots beneficial to the crew, but also getting the pretty significant attack boost from it too. I mean, at this point, a 2.25 attack boost was incredible, and I think at this point also was like the highest boost that you could get. Like, there weren't really any buffs that were around 2.5, at least at around the time of the 4th anniversary and V2 Jinbe on release. So a 2.25 attack boost was incredible, but being able to abuse that is very difficult to do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the content. And here we are with our team today, which is going to be up against Bartholomew Kuma Colosseum. So there's a couple of characters that released with his batch that we are going to be using today. We're going to be using Ha-chan, who's going to be a really nice character towards the end, mainly because of the slot change, because we have this guy, which we didn't talk about at the start of the video, which is Hody Jones. Now, Hody Jones has a really interesting special where it does damage, but it also changes left column slots to Dex, Strength, and Psi, and your right column slots into Tandem, Quick, and Int. And then also, if your captain's slot ends up being Strength, Dex, or Recovery when you launch the special, you get a 2.25 orb boost. You know, as we talked about, 2.25 was around the maximum multiplier that you could get access to, and this character as a limited rare recruit had that, but there was a condition attached to it. So we should be able to fulfill the condition with the introduction of also Treasure Map Shanks. This character is just amazing. We're going to need his special towards the end as well because of his utility effect to remove barriers, but also allows us to get matching slots pretty comfortably, and after doing that we should be able to kill. We also have the Corazon, which is going to be a very useful component with his special to get around the nasty debuffs, but we'll talk more about it as we actually jump into the content. I don't want to spoil everything immediately. And here we go with the final round versus Bartholomew Kuma, and we need to get our stall on as per usual. So we're going to be stalling here on these little mob characters at the back. And look, a lot of people really like to run speed farm teams nowadays, and it makes sense. People are busy, people got stuff to do. But, way back in the day, people would literally have no problems clearing content with, teams that would take, upwards of like 4 or 5 minutes of runs to clear Colosseums, because there really wasn't any other way to clear Colosseums in super fast times back then. Obviously we haven't had the release of Legend Carrot yet. I haven't actually looked at the schedule. I should check it before the end of this video. But, Legend Carrot definitely introduced that whole concept of, trying to farm events as fast as you possibly could. So at this point, we are doing a little bit of stall here. We're going to move on though. We actually don't need to do like heaps of stall. We don't need our specials to be maxed moving forward into the next stage. But, obviously as maxed as we possibly can would be very, very beneficial to the crew here. We would like to also keep as many matching slots as we possibly can, because moving forward into the next stage, we do have to stall a little bit on the next stage because there's a lot of paralysis and there's also special reverse. You guys are going to see exactly what I'm talking about as we move on here. So we are going to move on here. We did do a lot of extra stall. We probably could have moved on a couple of turns ago, but I also did want to conserve as many matching slots as I possibly could here. So here we have Kizaru Borsalino here on Battle 3. So he gives us paralysis, and essentially every attacking turn that he has, he's going to inflict more paralysis and he's going to special reverse us. But the special reverse that he gives us is really significant, and we want to make sure that we can kind of get through whilst also maintaining at least enough special charge to make it through here. And luckily we have the crewmate ability of Corazon, because that is what is enabling us to remove an additional turn of paralysis without having to use another special ability, which is really good. So from here, we're going to do some normal attacks and do as much damage as we possibly can. Okay, that was pretty good damage, 1.8 million damage, and of course, remember that when you get matching slots, the Jinbe gives you the additional boost. You know, if you don't have a matching slot, you're only getting a 3 times attack boost, but if you have the matching slot, it's a 4 times attack boost, so it's a pretty big difference, honestly. Here you see the special reverse, 4 turns of special reverse, I believe it was, which is pretty nasty, but of course, when we kill and move on to the next stage and stuff, the cooldown's gonna go our favor. But, of course, we are hit with paralysis again, so we do want to stall here. And it'll put down Bartholomew to 1 more turn, so he's going to go on a 1-turn cooldown. If he attacks us here, he's going to inflict 4 more turns of special reverse, so we need to kill him here. So let's go ahead and get that done and move on to battle 4. Beautiful. You love to see it. So Bartholomew goes away, but of course there's a really weird gimmick with this fight in the fact that if you actually have an int captain set, then he like does lots of nasty stuff to your captain. So it's obviously very, very important that you keep that in mind. Here we have the special bind inflicted to our team. The special reverse obviously is going to go away with this turn. But Sentomara is interesting. So we have 2 turns of the chain coefficient reduction. When that expires is when we want to kill Sentomara. So wait for it to expire, kill on the turn after that, because if we don't, we get nasty debuffs. So I am tempted to just do normal attacks here, do as much damage as we possibly can. Let's do it. Considering the chain reduction, we still did pretty good damage. But now from this point onwards, we want to try and keep as many matching slots as we possibly can. That's going to be very, very important because we are going to try and kill in the next turn. Okay. And now he's going to attack us again. And now we want to kill in this turn. We did get a couple more matching slots, which is absolutely fantastic. Now we're going to use one of our Jinbe specials, which remember does a 20% health cut, which is very big. We don't have normal attacks only, so we don't have to worry about that at all. So the 20% health cut and then him also giving us the 1.75 times attack boost should be enough to get the dub against Sentomara. He now only has, just under 50% HP. So once again, normal attacks and hopefully secure the dub. Let's get it. Awesome, you love to see it. There we go. And here we go to the boss battle, Battle 5 against Kuma. I remember when this Colosseum first came out, I was struggling with it. I didn't have a lot of good int characters at the time. And this was definitely one of the more difficult Colosseums that had released, just due to the debuffs as well. I know that, Recruit Baccarat from the film Gold Batch was really good for this too, because Baccarat would actually remove the attack down and the chain lock. But this is exactly why we have the Corazon. Now, this is not the same Corazon that I actually have max. This is a dupe Corazon, so this is not level limit break. It is the base 6+ Corazon. Even though I could actually still use the level limit break Corazon, it still fulfills the same purpose. But, for the sake of the series, we do have a duplicate Corazon at least that we can go ahead and use. So Corazon's going to heal us a little bit, going to remove those debuffs, but Kuma reacts to any health recovery, where he removes your beneficial effects, and he cuts your health in half. But he doesn't really do much else, which is luckily, good for us. So from here, we can use the special ability of Shanks, which is going to go ahead and remove 1 turn of barrier and also give us a really high chance of getting matching slots. And Shanks does have double special launch, so if we didn't get the slots that we wanted, we could use it again, but we are going to use it again anyway, because he has 2 turns of barrier. So that's the main component as to why Shanks was so good on release. Tap timing bonus damage, matching slots, removing barriers, really, really good effects here. Now, after using that, it does enable our captains to have the Dex slot, which means that we can use the special of Hody, which says that if we have a Dex slot, or Dex recovery or tandem slot on our captain, we get an orb boost, but also he shuffles our slots around to what you see here. So this weird concoction of slots is just really, really bizarre. But after using the special ability of the Hachan here from the batch, he actually will change tandem slots into recovery. Now, once we get into this position here, you can see that we actually have one of every slot. We have a strength, dex, quick, psi, int, and a recovery slot. And now we can finish it off with the Jinbe, which will give us not only a health cut, but we'll also get the beneficial slots and the 2.25 times attack boost. So we have 2.25 attack, 2.25 orb boost, and we have a health cut. Unfortunately, the conditional boost is not activated due to the enemy immunity, which would have been amazing. And we don't have type advantage because Jinbe doesn't actually boost int characters. But despite all that, this should be good enough to get the dub. So without further ado, let's get it. Let's go, dude. Let's go. Coliseum Kuma wiped the floor with that guy with the V2 Kuma, which is so cool, man. Such a weird and wacky character, but pretty strong if you do plan his team out correctly. You can do some really cool stuff with this guy. That was actually a lot of fun. And with that being said, that is going to wrap up yet another episode of the Legends of OPTC. Looking forward though into next week's episode, we're going to be covering Capone, which was definitely one of my favorite releases actually, because I'm a big fan of the shooter class, and the fact that we finally got some support for shooters, which was definitely long overdue. It wasn't the best support, but it was support nonetheless. So I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing what we can do in next week's episode. I really hope you guys did enjoy this video though, and if you guys did enjoy it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.